Hello, my name is Sonia. I'm the Community Engagement Officer for Parentline at Your Town. Today I'm here with Alia, who is the Cyberbullying Consultant for Parentline, the Parentline Manager, Kim, and Georgia, who is the Kids Helpline at Schools Program Manager. Today we're talking about the transition into high school from primary school and some of the concerns and issues that might arise through that transition. At the moment we're going to be talking about the social connections for young people and children, and also what that looks like on the social media as well, and that's very important for a lot of parents to have some information about that. So we're going to be talking about some of the peer group things and the friendship groups, I suppose, that can change in high school. A lot of children actually are going to schools that they don't have any friendship groups, so that can be really challenging for young people, and also as parents to navigate that change. So Georgia, what do you sort of want to share with us about that?
We do hear a lot of students being concerned around how to connect with peers and how to make friendships when they do transition into high school, and particularly, as you mentioned, if they are going to a school where they don't know anyone and none of their primary school friends are transitioning with them. So lots of discussions around how to connect and how to kind of join and organically make friends. I think a lot of these conversations are also heavily buffed with, you've done it before, you've been new before, you know, you're starting school, either in prep or year one, or whether they have changed schools already, and really just backing them up, and you know, they've done it before, they'll be able to do it again. It is just it's a new environment, it's a new realm to kind of make friends in, I guess. So one of the biggest things that we talk about is, sounds a little bit corny, but making a bit of a list of things that they are interested in for themselves, because if they're really wanting to explore netball opportunities in the school, or an instrument, or drama, or chess, or whatever it is, that is a natural way to be able to meet and connect with people that have similar interests to them. Absolutely. Conversation's going to flow quite naturally. So that's one strategy that we kind of chat with kids about. The other thing that we talk about is connection through compliments. So, you know, people respond quite well when you give them a compliment. So it can be anything from, oh, geez, that's a cool notebook, or that's so lame. I obviously haven't been in high school for a while.
nice laptop.
Nice smartphone. You know, just to be able to naturally start up and spark a conversation with somebody, you know, just to start generating that friendship. A big message that we try to share is they're not going to naturally connect with everybody either, and that's fine as well. And having the courage to kind of find people who they do want to fit in with and connect, and then also having the courage to, you know, differentiate between groups that they might not necessarily want to connect with as well, and being okay with that as well is really, really important. And
it's about understanding the healthy relationships, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And that can help with future intimate relationships in their later life. So,
yeah.
Lovely. What about you, Kim? What are your thoughts?
Look, leading on from some great things that Georgia said, I think normalising it. Like, we go through changes as well. We've experienced this as adults. It wasn't just in school, starting a new job, you know, moving to a new town. So normalising it for our kids, and I think is really important as well. I think a really big thing for parents to kind of understand is that we can't fix everything, right? We don't have the tools, and we're not in that environment, and we can't do this for our kids, and we can't fix it. Because I know that when we see our kids in distress, a lot of the time, instantly, we kind of want to figure out ways to fix it. And I think it's kind of like we don't have the power to always do that. And what we know, and if we think about it from a really general kind of point of view, any time that we are in distress, any time that our friends are in distress, having someone that will listen, having someone that can normalise it, and just when we are like feeling heard, it goes a long way to kind of make us feel better with really kind of tough scenarios. And you know, and this is no different. So for our kids, if they're struggling in that, we might not have the solutions. It's okay to say that. But like them knowing that we are here to listen and that they're important, and that we, you know, are going to help them with some of those those feelings that are coming up to the surface is a great kind of protective factor, because at the end of the day they're feeling loved.
Absolutely.
Right? They're
Really
feeling connected.
modelling it
Yeah.
too, isn't it? You're modelling that lovely, healthy communication which you have with all relationships in your life. So that's a really wonderful way of looking at it. Thank you, Kim. So the other thing too that a lot of parents and even young people have some worries about is that peer pressure. We are, as young people, when we go through high school, we can be exposed to lots of different things, either good, bad or ugly, and experiences, and that peer pressure can really be very very concerning and make a person who already feels vulnerable even more so. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, peer pressure is a massive one. And a really interesting conversation to have with young people is identifying when peer pressure is actually negative and when it can also be positive too, because it can be really positive. And I think that's a really interesting conversation to have. And an example that we often will provide is, you know, if there's a school play coming up and somebody is a fantastic singer but a bit of a closet singer, you know, but not very confident in their ability, and their friends are putting pressure on them to audition and to go for the role, and really rallying behind them. Well, that's really positive. You know, that's a really lovely way to...
It's positive encouragement.
Yeah, absolutely. So that peer pressure, I think, it can be, knowing when it is a good thing and when it isn't a good thing. So then when they are feeling pressured to engage in risky behaviours or things that they know are going to get them into trouble or aren't true to who they are and what they stand for, being able to know the difference. So we have a strategy that we talk to them about that is really kind of heavily focused on actually identifying what their values are, which is a great conversation to have, you know, and to identify at such a young age. So being able to recognise what they value about themselves, about their behaviour, and how they would like to show that in their interactions with their peers. So the strategy is it's called the pass strategy. So if they are being negatively peer pressured into engaging in an activity that they don't want to do, the P is to put off replying. So make a distraction. Sorry, mum's calling me, or
I need to go to the bathroom.
yeah, have to feed my cat. Which can also naturally involve a little bit of humour as well. So yeah, to put off replying so that they can have a little bit of a check-in, have a bit of a think, or, you know, put off the people who are pressuring them. The A is to ask them why. So putting it back on them and saying, but why? Why do you want me to do that?
Yes.
But why? Why is that important to you? Because that can actually sort of de-escalate the situation a little bit too. It creates a little bit of mindfulness within the group. Or
Let's stop and think about this.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. And then, so that's P, we've got A. S is staying true to you. So that's where the values conversation comes in, and really just checking in with themselves and thinking, do I actually want to do this? You know, what are the consequences of this? Is this true to my values? If I do this, am I going to regret it later? And if they do feel confident, it depends on the relationship and their level of communication. But if they do feel confident to share that, hey, that actually goes against my values. I don't feel comfortable doing that. Again, it's having those kind of higher level conversations can actually diffuse the situation as well. And then our final S is stand up for yourself.
Lovely.
Yeah. So being, again, if it is appropriate to be able to stand up and say, actually no, don't want to engage in this behaviour. Not interested. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, but no thanks. And it depends on the situation. Maybe one of those strategies is all they need to utilise. Maybe it's a combination of all four, but it's just giving them a few ideas as to how they can manage those situations.
And it really helps them process
Yeah.
that decision that they're making. They're obviously questioning it.
Yeah.
So it's giving them a process. So that's really wonderful information to
Yeah.
share. And what about you, Kim? What do you see from a perspective from a parent? How's that pressure impacting the parents' capacity and how they're helping their young person?
Look, I think we want, parents want to know about it. So like they want to be in a position where their kids are going to come and talk to them about it. So it's kind of setting up those healthy communication styles. Again, sharing that our kids feel comfortable to come to us and share things when they do feel kind of pressure. It's also, we want to kind of take our parents as well and kind of sit there and be like, okay, what is normal? This process through adolescence is normal. That they are going to come up, face these kinds of interactions throughout their adolescence, and we want to normalise it. We want parents to kind of think about, if our kids do succumb to a negative kind of moment of peer pressure and they do the wrong thing, we want our parents to kind of understand the difference between kind of a trait and a state, right? In terms of what our child is, who they are, like I'm disappointed in you, or versus I'm disappointed in that behaviour. Like we want to separate that, because a lot of the times I think, adolescents are struggling with some of the things that they do as well, right? They're predisposed to kind of, do these things, and they are going to take risks, and they are going to make mistakes. We're always going to make mistakes. Adolescents are trying a lot of things for the first time, so they're, it's really normal that they're going to make some mistakes as well. But us actually saying to our kids that, I'm not happy, I'm not happy that happened, and I'm not happy that that's a decision you made, versus I'm not happy with you. All right? Because one is actually still a conversation and still a chance for parents and their children to connect, to have conversations, to still, be in that relationship. And another is just going to shut it down, right? And it's going to, kids are going to have those emotions. At the end of the day, the parent is still an incredibly important figure in that child's life. And we, a lot of the times with that, we want to kind of avoid the shame that is going to linger around in terms of, well, my parent might feel that about me, as opposed to what I've done.
And I think sometimes that peer pressure can also then lead to that, I suppose, bullying. And that it's certainly a topic that we hear about a lot. And it goes into cyberbullying, and that I suppose the social networks and being on socials online, it is a really challenging time for parents to understand, because it's changing so much. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Alia, about that, because you are the cyberbullying consultant for Parent Line.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think around this same age where we've got kids transitioning from primary school to high school, they're often transitioning to using social media and perhaps being a bit more independent on their devices and things as well. So the biggest thing that we kind of talk about is really starting those conversations early, having the boundaries already in place with them so that they know what to expect from you. So having a conversation before they start high school about what their personal social media time or personal device time looks like. So if they're doing their schoolwork, that's probably a little bit less restricted, but for when they're doing things like going on Facebook or going on Instagram and TikTok, maybe restricting those hours that they're on those devices, or restricting the places that they're on those devices. So that could be things like having a time of the day where they're not using their devices for anything social related. They're only using it if they're doing homework or assignments and things like that. Or there might be a place in your house or wherever you're living where you choose to make it a device-free zone. And the way that really works best for a lot of people is to have that apply to everyone in the family. So for example, having the dinner table be a place where no one has their devices, unless it's agreed to beforehand. Like if you just want to have a night where you're all kind of doing your own thing and eating dinner, that's absolutely fine too. But really talking to them and including your kids in those conversations about where that space is, what the time is that they're spending on their devices, and then also really looking at and helping them, or I suppose encouraging them to find a balance that works for them between device time and time spent outside or time spent doing other activities. So really balancing the screen time, whether that's active screen time, so doing assignments, doing homework, researching things, or whether that's passive screen time, so scrolling through social media feeds or watching
YouTube.
watching YouTube videos, kind of like maybe a little bit less mindfully than they would be when they're using that active time, and then also looking at green time. So balancing all of those kinds of things in a way that works for you and your family. So some people, it might work for them to have it written down in advance. I know that the eSafety website has a bit of an example of a way that you can set some boundaries in advance, and so does the Beacon app. So they both give you opportunities to sit down with your kids, talk about their screen time, their device use and stuff as a family, and then printing it out. So if that works for your family, having it on the fridge or something like that. Or there might be other ways that work for you better, systems that you've already got in place that you can incorporate that into as well.
I think that's really important, and it goes to show too, it's really about that communication, making sure that the young person is a part of that conversation. And I think you would agree, Kim, too, that is really key to that relationship between parent and child, that communication is clearly put forth to each other, and that they're a part of it.
Definitely. And I think, kind of touching on what Ali was saying, like, you know, the use of a device is something else that transitions as well. So, you know, previously when kids are younger, they might be using a device for games, and they might be using a device for watching videos and things like that. But when we think as an adult, what we have on our phones,
Yes.
what we use our phones for, our kids will transition, and understanding what an important part of their world that device will end up being, especially as they kind of reach into high school years as well, is something that parents are going to have to transition with them as well. Because in the past, I think, you know, parents have you know, the device is always a go-to. We're like, we're just going to take it off them. We're going to take it off them. If you've done something wrong at school, well, that's it. No iPad for the next week. And I think it's an important place to have kind of conversations around how the use and, I guess, the importance and what this actually represents will also kind of transition, just like it has for us.
And again, it's that modelling behaviour as well. You know, I like the idea, Ali, that you say that everyone in the household should sort of abide by the agreed times when there is a time frame of no devices, because parents can just be as addicted to their phones and social media. So if we as parents can do that, it's really helpful to be able to model that behaviour. And what about yourself? What do you see from a child's perspective? I suppose that cyberbullying concern that parents can have, and also young people, because it's a real space that can be really frightening for a young person.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's definitely something that comes up a lot when we're running sessions with young people. I guess some of the messages that we try to promote is to be critical, to be conscious, and to be in control as much as possible with what media they are actually being exposed to, what kinds of conversations and behaviours that they are seeing as well, and knowing when to actually reach out and get some help around that. And a good baseline is if they're seeing something, or if young people are engaging with them in a way that they're not sure, is this cyberbullying, is this doing harm, you know, how is this making me feeling? If they're not sure about that, then that's a good indicator that they do need to reach out and seek support. Again, whether that's whoever their adult is in their life, who that is.
And I think that social media platform, it's an ever-changing platform, isn't it? So as parents, sometimes we're left a little bit behind on what they're actually accessing and how they're accessing, how often, and who they're engaging with is a definite concern.
And I think on that too as well, that's why it can be really important to start those conversations early. So really having the conversation before they've even gotten onto social media, or when they're first using social media, and like kind of even like further than that, like sometimes they may not want to tell you what it is that they're doing online, but taking a bit of an interest in some of the things that they like doing online. So whether they like playing, you know, Minecraft or something like that, and asking them questions about it, and sort of giving them that space to talk to you about the really fun side of things that they're doing online, it really then opens up the door for, if they do have a negative experience, or like Georgia was saying, there's something that they see and they're just not sure whether it's true or whether it's something that they need to be concerned about, they kind of know already and feel comfortable to come and talk to you because you have that open relationship about what they're doing online. And I think even just bringing it back to what Kim was saying, the fear of having their devices removed from them is a huge thing for young people. Absolutely. Those devices, especially when they are being, like, getting to be a bit more independent with them, the device is their support system, it's got entertainment for them. Exactly, absolutely. And so it is scary, the thought that maybe, I've done something wrong, or I've accidentally clicked on something and I've seen something that is a bit scary, or that I know that I probably shouldn't be looking at and stuff. So allowing them that space to know that you're not going to be angry with them and you're not going to take the device away from them, unless that is kind of necessary, or you feel that that's something that's necessary for you to do. But being able to have those open conversations so that if something like that does happen, they know that they can come to you without that fear of, I'm going to tell whoever my adult is I am experiencing cyberbullying or something along those lines, and I want to tell them, but I'm scared that they're going to take my phone or my iPad away from me.
And I think those conversations are really helpful, and it's also about what is public and what is private. They might not want to share with you as a parent what's going on for them, but yet they're putting all this information on a public platform, so having that conversation within itself is really important. So when we're looking at cyberbullying, we often look at who's experiencing cyberbullying, and what the impacts are there. So what happens if your child is actually one engaging in it and making another person feel uncomfortable? What would you say to that, Alia?
I mean, I think that the first thing to sort of be aware of is that there is actually a lot of crossover between the two people in that scenario. So a lot of people in the research who are engaging in those behaviours have also had negative experiences themselves. So keeping that in mind when we're sort of potentially dealing with a situation where our child has been perhaps accused of engaging in those behaviours, or we've somehow found out that perhaps they're engaging in those behaviours. And I think that the language that you've used just there as well is super important as well for parents to keep in mind, or carers and as well. So thinking about separating out the person from the behaviour, so really using that person-centred language. So the person who is experiencing the behaviour and the person who might be engaging in those behaviours as well.
And what about you, Kim? Is there something from the parent perspective, how they can sort of navigate this sort of side of cyberbullying? Because it can be quite stressful, I could imagine, for a lot of parents who discover that their child is engaging in this behaviour.
Engaging in the behaviour, experiencing the behaviour. I think that there's a lot of fear associated, but like during this period of time for parents. A lot of things are out of our control, and I think that can be quite difficult. We cannot protect our children from everything, and our children will make mistakes, and they will kind of make mistakes in multiple different ways throughout that period of time as well. So again, I think it's kind of understanding that as soon as we kind of look at online stuff, and as soon as we start looking at kind of the cyber world, I think that can also raise a lot of anxiety for parents as well, because it sometimes feels like we don't have ourselves across it completely, and that can get in the way of us having really good conversations with our kids around it. If we feel like we don't know, and it's this wonderful world of secrets and things that we're not privy to as well. So it's really, how do we demystify that? And ultimately we want to bring it back to our connection with our kids. And I know I harp on that a lot, but I can't harp on it enough. We are the biggest protective factor. Our relationship is the biggest protective factor, and our relationship is about providing that guidance, providing that support, providing that support for their independence and all that kind of stuff as well. So how do we maintain that and try and keep that connection as strong as possible so that they come to us without fear of retribution and without fear of the really negative consequences when they're already experiencing a multiple of negative consequences as well. So that would be my best advice, I think, for parents, is how do we kind of hold our fear, hold our anxiety around that kind of stuff, and understand that our support, listening, sometimes saying I don't know, but we can figure this out together, is the biggest protective factor that we can give them.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing that information. I hope you find it really useful for you, because it is definitely a topic that can be very forefront in parents and carers' minds, and it can be challenging